What's up, guys? This is the Illegal Defense, episode 12 for our NFL segment. We're going to get into a lot of things with the NFL season that's been happening. First off, we're going to get straight into our weekly recap. First game that we're going to recap is the AFC West matchup with the Chiefs versus the Chargers. Chiefs took care of business and swept the Chargers. So, they beat them 30-27. What was your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot going on here with the dynamics of this division. Obviously, the whole narrative of Justin Herbert keeping things close against the Chiefs, which they did. How the Chiefs, if the Chiefs offense was going to keep up, their streak of kind of just performing well, and they did that as well. And a lot of people were even making jokes about how this Chiefs team, like every fan base wants this out of their team, like the ability to be able to have these close games and they always
And
find a
still
way to
come out
win.
on top, yeah.
And it was just like people saying like, oh, the Chargers lost that game as soon as they left a minute and changed on the board for the Chiefs, and it's kind of true. I mean, how many times are we gonna see the Chiefs find a way to pull up a game-winning drive with little to no time left,
Right.
and find a way to either force overtime or win the game outright? And they do so again here. You know, and yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't even say a impressive win by the Chiefs. I guess just their body of work of being able to consistently be in this position is impressive, although not surprising, because as we said, they found ways to continue to do this for years now, and they've been doing this, all year.
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing in a sense better than they were even last year, and
Yeah.
where they were struggling this year, they just been racking up the wins and keeping things rolling.
I think they're getting hot at the right time. Travis Kelsey and Pat Mahomes are on the same page. They're always clicking. They obviously had the addition of Kadarius Toney. He wasn't really effective last game. But his first game, he was able to show what he can bring to the offense and what he can bring to that dynamic of weapons. So, I mean, it sucks to see the Chargers be this disappointing. Considering their talent. I mean, we've spoken about it all season, and we spoke about it a little bit, I believe, last week. But it's kind of like they eventually just have to get over that hump, and eventually just need to be able to try to be able to match up with the Chiefs.
Yeah, if you're the Chargers, it's a tough situation because you're obviously going to be disappointed. One, that you lost to the Chiefs. Two, you lost to a division rival. Um, but just in general, like they either found ways to lose or haven't found ways to win.
Yeah, exactly.
And as the season keeps getting more, later and later, they're in a very tough position because clearly they have some solid pieces there. Look, they're able to push the Chiefs to have to come back that late. I mean, we see games where the Chiefs just, air it out against teams and it's no competition. At least they were in the game down to the very end here. But yeah, for a Chargers team, it's a tough loss. All you can do is move on and get better. Good thing for them is they don't play the Chiefs anymore on their schedule, right?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
that's the good thing about getting swept by a team is that you don't have to see them again. So if they could pull themselves together, they certainly have the pieces to get back into things and push for a playoff spot. We saw the mythical return of Keenan Allen, who
Right.
hasn't been able to stay healthy all year. He played pretty well too.
Yeah, he was effective.
He didn't get injured again in this game as well. I mean, you have to say that. And if they could keep him for the rest of the year, he's a huge piece for a great quarterback in Justin Herbert, who needs that number one receiver to kind of get the most out of his skills and his potential. So hopefully for them, they could use this and continue to grow
Build
as a
on it.
team and take more steps in the right direction. And then if they could push for the playoffs, then maybe they'll see the Chiefs again. And look, it's hard to beat a team twice in a year, let alone three
Three
times.
times, yeah.
And at that point, if they could be healthy, maybe be the healthier team in that matchup. Who knows? Maybe their fortunes could change.
Yeah. So the next game that we're gonna get into is the Cowboys versus the Vikings. Cowboys surprisingly just completely annihilated the Vikings, 40-3. Um, this game is kind of weird because the Vikings couldn't get anything going. They weren't able to protect Kirk Cousins. Michael Parsons was having his like the game of his season like for the most part. And then on top of that, it's like they just weren't able to stop the Cowboys offense at all. And Dak Prescott just looked like an MVP candidate, just slinging it. Tony Pollard and Zeke are just taking turns, just gashing the defense. It was just a crazy game. And I don't think anybody expected the Vikings to only put up 3 points.
Well, I will say this, and we did preview this game last week. I picked the Vikings to win, but I did mention that the Cowboys could win this game if they just shut them down. And if the game was to go the Cowboys' way, I pictured it going this way in terms of how the Cowboys played defensively to just completely, annihilate and wipe out the Vikings offense. What I will say is the thing that I didn't expect was the offense on the Cowboys part, right?
Yeah.
Not only did Micah Parsons have a career game against the Vikings, but Tony Pollard as well. I mean, he's catching passes for touchdowns. He's, gashing the defense. Dak Prescott looked great, like you talked about. So, offensively, they just came together and had a great performance, which, on one hand, if you want to be, cynical, you might say, oh, maybe they wasted this offensive performance when they didn't need it, right? They needed 4 points to win this game,
Right.
oddly enough, and they dropped 40 on the Vikings. So, but yeah, look, if they could put both together, this would be the team that, I mean, kind of people thought they had in the bag for this season, and we haven't gotten to see it mostly because of Dak Prescott's injuries, but also some other things. But look, the Cowboys defense is always there. The offense has been, the
Kind of
thing.
iffy.
Yeah, it's been iffy. The defense has carried them when Dak hasn't been in there with the whole Cooper Rush situation. They've been able to lean on that defense. So we know their defense is consistent. It's just, when the name of the game is put up more points than the other team could outscore you, then
It's kind of tough to do to win
yeah.
games.
So if they could have both clicking, Cowboys are in a great spot. The whole NFC East really is looking great this year. So it might be one of those situations where these guys, take turns eating each other, and who knows how things will turn out come wild card time. But Cowboys certainly in contention to win the division, and if not, definitely in the driver's seat to grab one of those wild card spots. For the Vikings, look, this is a game where probably as a coach, I mean, maybe you throw away the tape.
Right.
It feels like that with these kind of games, but I would think as the Vikings to lose this bad the way they did, you probably do need to find some things and say, look, we can't have this happen. We can't have our offensive line just completely get
Implode.
mauled
Right.
and Kirk Cousins be, not having time to throw, and then Kirk, you can't get rattled just because these things happen. But look, second loss for the Vikings, they'll be fine. You move on. You keep playing good football. They've been playing great all year. They just come off a big win against the Bills. So maybe this was one of those situations where this was a bit of a letdown trap kind of game where they were gearing up for the Bills the whole time. They come out with a win. They're riding high. Maybe they lack some focus on this one. But yeah, I think the Vikings will be fine, and they're certainly in the driver's seat
To win that division.
to win that division and
Considering-
move on in the playoffs.
Right, considering how everything's panned out in the North. So, I mean, the good thing about the Viking situation is they still have, I mean, you still have so much more football to play, and then on top of that, it's like, I mean, the Cowboys, you're most likely not going to see them in the playoffs. You may see a different team, who knows, but um we'll get into the next game. They're the Cowboys division rival, the Eagles. They took care of business at the Colts. They came back, which was pretty surprising. I mean, Sirianni was he was basically doing what Pat Beverly did when he was on Minnesota. But it was it was a good win for the Eagles considering how dominant they've been all year, and to come back from kind of having a stagnant offense. They didn't really seem to get clicking. I kind of thought like, oh, will they lose two in a row?
Yeah.
Considering the Colts have been playing really more with an identity where they're just running the ball a lot more. They're sticking with their guns and Jonathan Taylor, and they have a specific identity. Whereas
Hmm.
like we saw the past weeks, it was like, what are they doing? Why are they
Hmm.
giving this guy 4 carries a game when
Right.
he just came off of 1,000 yard year? But the Colts, I mean, you gotta give it to them. They put in a great effort, and you also have to give it to the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles, they showed some resiliency, and they got the win on the road. So
Yeah, I mean, look, like you said, it's probably a good thing for the Eagles to have a win under their belt like this. You don't want to go through the season not tested, and then the first time you're tested is in the playoffs, and you don't know how your team is going to react. This is a win where it wasn't pretty. It wasn't how they wanted to get the win, but at the end of the day, you could, lean back and look at this win and say, look, we've been in tough situations before. We've been able to prevail and do what it takes to come out and get the win by any means necessary. And so yeah, look, it was tough circumstances coming into this game. It seems like you said, the Colts just had something different about them. And after the Eagles came with that loss before, this is like a kind of a bad setup for the Eagles here. But yeah, look, they're able to get the job done. They keep the sole best record in the NFC and as the number one seed here with only one loss. And yeah, look, it's the Eagles team that we know will continue to be talking a lot about. And look, a lot of people are talking about the NFC East potentially being wide open because of this game. And I think the feeling was, and it wasn't talked about a lot, but the feeling kind of was that the Colts have a sneaky shot of taking down the Eagles and giving them two losses, and then everybody's in the mix for the NFC East just like that.
yeah.
So, but no, the Eagles they're able to hold things off and keep control of their own destiny, and we'll see how things go for this Eagles team moving on, and for the Colts team moving on, trying to turn their season around.
So the next topic that we're gonna get into is I mean, we've seen a lot of injuries happen throughout the years with the turf, especially at MetLife. MetLife, it seems to be like just ACL torn every game, not every game, but like a lot of games in the season. So, a topic that we wanted to get into was, should grass fields be mandatory in the NFL?
Yeah,
So,
this
what's
is
your thoughts?
very, very early on in the season. We touched on this topic a little bit, and I remember Von Miller being on Pat McAfee's show and kind of talking about how it's kind of ridiculous that the NFL doesn't have only grass fields. Soccer players, they only have grass fields, because they know how dangerous it is, and they're not gonna,
Put that at risk.
yeah, put their players at risk for a game where football is already so violent and there's already so much injuries. Um, I don't understand why they don't just make it standard. I mean, look, the NFL um, business model is you're making money no matter what. Like, I
Right.
just don't see why you couldn't find a way to implement grass fields when all these other soccer teams and stuff like that are doing it, and some NFL teams do it already. It's not like no teams do it.
Right.
I don't know what the percentage is or what the numbers are. It's got to be at least half the teams in the NFL have grass fields.
No.
Um, and like you said, MetLife alone has been notoriously bad. I mean, you have Wandale Robinson come back from another injury just to tear his ACL
Yep.
playing on turf, and now he's out for the season. And it's like, we have enough injuries, guys. Why don't we do
How
what we can
many?
to limit them? I know, look, the NFL has done some good stuff in terms of looking at concussions more and changing the way different things go. Like preseason now, a lot of starters they don't play, and that's iffy too because it's like you don't get the contact, and maybe that ends in injury. But it's clearly been a focus, right? They're trying to figure it out. They might not always have the right answer, but you'll have to applaud them for trying.
Right.
I don't see how this is not one of the things more on the forefront here. because you just can't afford to just be losing these guys to blowing out their knees every time
Yeah.
they play on these turf fields.
Yeah, and I think a good selling point on top of that is the fact that I mean you're not only losing players, but you're losing players that are stars. I mean,
Hmm.
we've seen Odell go down. We've seen Nick Bosa go down in MetLife. We've seen, Saquon Barkley with a leg injury. And it's like these are household names that people go to these stadiums to see. So it's like if you invest in the product, you can probably just get just as much, make more returns right after you do it. So it's
Hmm.
like, and it's tough because we have situations where it's like the Bengals, still have an outdoor
Practice facility.
practice facility, and it's like why? And again, it would be beneficial towards both parties. So it's not like, oh yeah, well, we just want something that's going to benefit the players and not benefit your
Yeah,
business.
I mean,
As
look,
an NFL brand, that's going to just make your brand a lot
I
more
mean,
better and safer at that. So
you're paying all these guys. Why wouldn't you want to get the most out of your money? Like, you don't want to pay a guy, a star running back, a bunch of money just to see him sitting on the bench because he tore his one of his ACLs on your turf. Like,
right.
just get the grass, and if they get injured, they get injured. Fine. Like, we understand injuries are a part of the game,
Yeah, it's
but let's
inevitable.
let's limit these things. Let's not have it be this kind of thing. You know, it's a tough thing too because it's like, did, like, for instance, Wanda Robinson, one of the recent ones, did he tear his ACL because of the turf, or would he tore it on grass? Either way, I don't know, but all I know is that there's turf there, and that
That's a
we know that the
pretty
turf
big factor.
is a factor. So why don't we just eliminate that? So that way, if somebody tears their ACL, it's like, oh well, I guess they tore it. It's not the turf's fault. There's no
Uh,
turf there. There's nothing else to blame at that point. So, yeah, I mean, look, hopefully, this is something that the NFL looks at. I think there's been enough discussion on it. I mean, I've heard more discussion about this turf versus grass thing this year than maybe any year prior. So
right.
maybe the talk around it and the narrative gets loud enough for them to make some changes and kind of put this kind of thing behind us.
Yeah, hopefully it gets put behind us and hopefully there's a lot less injuries. But the next topic we're going to get into is the AFC West and how disappointing it's been. I mean, prior to this season, we've thought that the AFC West would be just such a great division, and I mean, the Broncos have underperformed. The Raiders, they're kind of like up in the air. They've underperformed, and Josh McDaniels hasn't been able to really put together a solid resume for them. And then we have the Chiefs and the Chargers. I mean, the Chiefs pick up where they left off last year, but the Chargers, they're also kind of another team where we talked about a lot, where it's like, how do you have all this talent and it doesn't translate to the field? So
Yeah, I mean, look, Chiefs is the only team that's worth anything at this point. Not saying the others can't get on track, but the Chiefs have been rolling. It was supposed to be one of the more competitive football divisions in football, and you have some of the worst teams there, like the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Raiders are just horrible. I mean, they're in contention for being the worst teams in the league. The Chargers can't stay healthy, and they find ways
to
to
lose
lose
games, they,
games.
they, they're in their own way.
Yeah, even though a lot of them will be close, they just haven't been able to find ways to win. I've seen people talking about how money wise, this division spent like $1 billion to beat Patrick Mahomes, and they're all failing. They can't beat the even the other opponents that they're playing. So you bring in all these Russell Wilson, you bring in on the team that the Broncos, the thought was the only
Quarterback
thing they're
away.
missing is the quarterback. Their offense isn't clicking. You bring in Russell Wilson, it's the same exact situation. Your offense isn't clicking. Your defense is still one of the best in the league. That's pretty sad. Raiders, you go and get Devontae Adams. You take him away from Green Bay. Devontae Adams wanted to come to the Raiders. I mean, it was his decision. He wanted to play with his old college quarterback in Derek Carr. They've been able to click and put up some numbers together, but it's not been
It's not.
enough.
Yeah,
You know,
it's not enough. And
it's
then,
not been enough, and the rest of the team has been, sporadic at best. Um, and then look, we keep talking about the Chargers already today, about how they just can't find a way to win these games. As a whole, the division is pretty disappointing. We talked earlier in the year about some of the best divisions this year, and it's like the AFC East and the NFC East, really. And then you have other disappointing divisions like this AFC West, similar to in some ways the NFC West, where these teams are just not performing and they're supposed to be coming in
pretty good.
with that they're going to be pretty good teams. So
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And I guess you could kind of point to the coaching changes because, I mean, rookie head coaches fairly kind of struggle early on, but there's usually a stint where it's like, all right, they're picking it up, and we still haven't seen it with Nathaniel Hackett. A lot of the times, I mean, he looks lost out there. I don't wish for anybody to lose their job, but I think his job may be at question after the season, considering they'll look at the whole body of work, maybe.
I mean, the Broncos, they might need to pull a Jim Irsay here and just bring back an old player. They might need to, hey Peyton, get in there, coach the team. These guys don't know
I
anything about
mean,
football.
yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, maybe that may be the case. They did it with Josh McDaniels when he started off. He was what was he? He was 6-0, and they found out that he was looking at other people's film, and he had people looking at, or he had people filming other people's practice. I mean, I guess he took the Patriots way with him, and then after that, once they found out and he wasn't able to do that, they just completely just imploded, and they ended up getting rid of him. But I guess Nathaniel Hackett is. I guess he has a long leash, but it's just like I don't understand how we're already in this week and he still has a job. It's kind of crazy to me, but hey, I mean it beats me. And then Staley he's it's weird with Staley because he's not a horrible coach, but he just does a lot of questionable things, and it's like
Yeah, he's not a bad coach, but it's almost one of those things where, okay, is it really Staley? Nah, it's kind of like it just didn't work that time, and then he
nah,
does it again. I guess it just didn't work that time. I guess it just at some point it's like, all
take the
right,
points.
at some point, not even just take the point. At some point, it's like it is the coach.
Yeah.
Like how many times can you not convert something that the analytics told you were supposed to convert? Because on one hand, it's like, oh well, the numbers say we should be able to do it at this rate. Okay, but then you're not doing it. So then
yeah,
it
you
falls
have
back
to
on the coach at that point because it's
yeah.
like the
Your
numbers.
coach instincts has to kick in
Yeah,
at
at
some
one point, if the percentage say something and you go for it and it doesn't work, it's like you could kind of fall back on the numbers. But when none of the numbers work, then what are you doing?
Yeah, then it's like
You
waste of
know.
time.
So yeah, he needs to turn it around. Otherwise, they're gonna get rid of him and try to bring someone in who can do the job.
Okay, so we're gonna get into our next segment, the weekly preview. Pretty big NFC matchup that we have, the NFC East matchup between the Giants versus the Cowboys. Giants are traveling to the Cowboys. This is their second game versus them. We'll see what happens. I mean, what's your thoughts on this game so far?
Yeah, I think this will be a pretty close matchup. The last time they played, it was a close game. Both teams were able to kind of stay in the mix. It was kind of one of those hard fought, drag it out kind of games where they lean on the run game. They're able to throw the ball a little bit, but the defenses were showing up. Not a super high scoring game. I see something similar to that happening this time. We know Dak is back in place of Cooper Rush as opposed to last time, but I see the game kind of playing out a similar way. The Cowboys are favored by 9. I actually think it might have crept up to even up to 10 at this point. But yeah, look, it's going to be a fun game. It's on Thanksgiving. I think it's going to be a close game. I'd probably take the points on this one. I think it's going to be close regardless of who wins.
Right.
And yeah, and then we have the Odell factor with him being rumored to making a decision including these teams, maybe some more teams in the mix. I would think the Bills, Chiefs, Bucks, some other teams, etc. Packers maybe. But yeah, look, it should be fun. You get to watch this on Thanksgiving with a few other games as well. But getting one of those Thanksgiving prime time spots, you know, seems like a great matchup, and um, one that we'll see what kind of Dallas team turns up. I mean, I think for the most part the Giants are what they are. You expect them to a little bit of a mix of defense,
running the ball.
running the ball with Saquon, finding some holes here and there to make some pass plays. What are we gonna get from Dallas? Are they gonna their defense should show up? Are they going to play spectacular like they did against the Vikings? Or maybe they're gonna come back a little bit more to earth. Same thing with the offense. I don't see them putting up 40 points again.
Yeah,
That
I don't think they'll be able to put up 40 on Wink Martindale's defense. You have to look at a few. You have to look at a few key factors. I think a lot of this game is going to be on Daniel Jones to make some plays because they're obviously going to be able to key in on Saquon Barkley and game plan on him. But I think there's going to be some substantial moments where we're going to have to see Daniel Jones step up, and it's kind of tough because he lost one of his like favorite receivers in Wendell Robinson. We saw Wendell kind of like emerge as kind of the number one receiver. I mean, he still has Richie James and Kenny Galladay. Maybe this is
Slayton.
also, yeah, and Slayton, and maybe this is also a game that Kenny Galladay could kind of make his stamp and try to put himself in standing where it's like, okay, he's still a respectable receiver, but um, again, I think it just like you said with the whole offense of the Cowboys, are we going to get the offense that we got last week, or are we going to get the offense that we got in week one when they were versing the Bucks? It's really up in the air with the Cowboys. They're kind of inconsistent in a sense. So I think it'll all tie down to what Wink Martindale, I guess, really like draws up to kind of neutralize what Dak can do and what that offense can do in general. Um, Also, just their run offense. I mean, I don't know how well they'll be able to run the ball against this team. The Giants do have a good rush
I
defense. So
mean, I mean, they're gonna have to find a way to run the ball, because if they can't run the ball, it's gonna
it
be over
shuts
for
down
the
a lot.
Giants,
Yeah.
because we know they're gonna be able to get pressure on the quarterback. The Cowboys, one thing that they can do is they can get sacks and really disrupt the flow of the game. So they're gonna need Saquon to step up here, even if he doesn't go for a crazy amount of yards, to at least balance things out, to make them have to worry about that run game, for so that they could take advantage and probably get a few big plays in that game off some play action, which we know Daniel Jones could do. While also he'll probably have to make some plays with his legs and do that, which he's been proven he's capable of.
So the next game that we're gonna get into is the Bengals versus the Titans. This is a game, I believe. This is at Tennessee, correct?
Yes. So
So yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, this is an interesting game because the Bengals, they're obviously, I mean, they have such firepower on offense, but the Titans, we've seen the Titans kind of get things together late in seasons, especially I mean, Derrick Henry is still healthy. They're able to just like, I mean, feed the rock to them and get that offense going, and then once that gets going, you open up a little bit more in the passing game. They are the underdogs at home. Don't really like that, especially being that the Bengals kind of had a closer game than usual against the Steelers last week. Um, so I don't know. I mean, this is a kind of a weird game, but I could see either team really winning this. I'm gonna go with the Titans. I think the Titans are gonna be able to beat the Bengals and make a statement.
Yeah. So you know, it is a bit odd for the Titans to be the underdog at home. The Titans, look, they've been up and down this year, but record wise, it shows they've been able to put together a lot of wins after not starting the season off on a great start. Derrick Henry's gonna be a monster. We know that. For the Bengals, probably this would be the flip the other way, maybe 1.5 for the Titans, but the Bengals, it does seem like they're getting Jamar Chase back, so that might be why this line is,
Slightly in their favor.
favoring the Bengals this week. But Yeah, look, 1.5 point spread. I mean, it's not a pick 'em, but it's pretty close. And this will be a game that either team could win. No surprises here. They're both good teams. It'll just come down to how they show up on that Sunday and how they execute. But yeah, big game for both teams. I would say if you're the Bengals, you probably need this game a little bit more than the Titans need the game.
Yeah, for sure.
The Titans seem like they're in pretty good control of that division now. And they are a team that's been able to make the playoffs and be in that position in recent history. The Bengals, they go all the way to the Super Bowl last year, but in a division where you have the Ravens looming and the Browns are able to lean
Keep
on
afloat.
Chubb and kind of eat away at wins, and the Steelers, you can never count them out with Tomlin. There's a lot more landmines in that AFC North there. So yeah, it's something that obviously, if you're the Bengals, you kind of probably need this game a little bit more. But we'll see how this turns out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the outcome is. I think it'll be a great game nonetheless. And especially with Jamar coming back, it'll be nice to see another superstar back on the field. So with our next game, we're gonna get into the Packers versus the Eagles. The Packers are visiting the Eagles, and the Eagles are obviously the favorite. I believe they're favored by -7. Interesting game considering how the Packers have played their last game. They came off that huge win against the Cowboys, and then they ended up just not playing well against the Titans in the next week. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he. The good thing, I guess, the good thing about everything that's happened is he's been able to get on the same page with Christian Watson, and I think, I mean, this is a game where the Eagles they almost lost to the Colts, and they weren't versing a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. And I think Aaron Rodgers, I think he just rises to the occasion, and I think the Packers get it done in this game.
Yeah, tough stretch of games for the Eagles. Like you said, they had that big win against the Cowboys. Then they go pick up the loss, and then a close game against the Colts. This is a similar game to last week to me. This is the game where you can see the things kind of turning a little bit for the Packers, somewhat how they turns for the Colts. And look, when you're going against Aaron Rodgers, this team could be bad, but you can never count that guy out. The Eagles, they're at home. They certainly shown the ability to put up points in a hurry and clamp down defensively. If they could do that to start out and get off to a big lead, they're probably going to be fine.
Right.
But they do not want to keep this game close against the Packers. If you keep this game close against Aaron Rodgers, good luck. They very well might be able to pull this off. The game will be in Philly, but cold weather won't be a factor for a team like Green Bay and a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. Packers have a decent run game. They'll be able to lean on that. Defensively, great secondary. They're
Yeah.
able to lock people down and clamp down. Might be a hard night for AJ Brown and
Devontae
Devontae
Smith.
Smith and all those guys. So yeah, this is probably one of the more interesting games. Look, I don't feel like you probably have to give the Eagles -7 favorite here. That seems about right. But it's just one of those things where the feeling is the game itself is probably going to be closer
Closer
to
than
than yeah.
what it's like really anticipated for. And I think what I think another thing is like which team does something better, because it's like the Eagles and the Packers they have a similar offense, whereas they don't lean so much more. They can pass. I mean, I don't know about the Packers, but the Packers and the Eagles tend to lean more towards the run. So I think it's going to be more of like who is going to be the better passing team. And I mean, you could say who's going to be the better quarterback, and I think 9 times out of 10 anybody's going to take Aaron Rodgers over Jalen Hurts. But Jalen Hurts' weapons are obviously a lot better, and
And this year Jalen Hurts has been playing great. I mean,
right,
look, it probably it doesn't even. I don't know if it'll come down to the passing game, right? But it'll be who can make more plays, right?
right,
When the plays matter, those huge third down type of plays. Those plays once you get a little closer to the end zone, can you throw the guy that's thread the needle and get that touchdown pass that maybe you might miss, or if you don't throw it perfectly, it's not going to happen. So who could capitalize and execute some of these things and make more plays down the stretch? It's probably the type of game you're looking at. It's probably going to be one of those hard fought defensive battles, and those games come down to who can make more plays when it comes down to everything.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game. I think that's probably out of this whole slate. I think that's probably my favorite game to kind of see because I mean, again, the Packers they don't have the greatest record, but you can never count them out regardless of their record. So the next segment that we're gonna get into is our best bet segment. So we have some of the games that we've spoken about, but there's obviously some games that we didn't. We have the Raiders versus the Seahawks. The Seahawks are the -3.5 favorite. We've obviously saw the Raiders struggle. They came off a big win against the Broncos and with that walk-off touchdown to Devontae Adams. But I think the Seahawks they're just a better, well-rounded team, and I think they'll be able to win this by more than a touchdown, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think this line is probably only close because of one, the Raiders won against the Broncos, but also if you look at other games, they've somewhat been in them. I mean, we saw the Chiefs kind of beat the Raiders by a point. Um, but look, those are divisional games, and we know how those games go. Sometimes they end up being close games. I think against a Seahawks team, they're going to be able to take care of business. I mean, look, when you go and you go into like say ESPN fantasy football, and you know how it shows like the stats against like what your player is and how the other team does against that position.
Nah,
It's all green for the Seahawks this week.
nah,
Like they don't do anything well defensively, and you're probably not going to see some kind of offensive explosion from the Raiders. So they're playing in Seattle, right? We
yeah,
know
which
how
is tough.
we know how the environment is over there. Geno Smith's been balling this year. Their defense has been opportunistic against a team in the Raiders who couldn't get across the 50-yard line at some points in games. So yeah, everything kind of sets up for the Seahawks to win this game. 3.5 point spreads. I'll take it. You know what I mean? Simple to me. And yeah, I look for the Seahawks to roll and keep hard times to the Raiders, and Derek Carr emotional at press conferences because they can't win.
Yeah. So the next game for the best bet segment we got is the Bucks. They're the -3.5 or -3 favorite versus the Browns. They're going to Cleveland, but Cleveland they're just I don't know. It's just they're just a weird team. So I mean, I'm gonna rock with the Bucks to cover the spread. I think -3 is that's pretty generous, and I think obviously we've seen Tom Brady just strive in this time of year, this period of time.
Yeah, the Bucks kind of a rough season, but they've been playing better as of late and putting some wins together. This is a game where I can see the Browns clamping down defensively, running the ball. But on the other hand, you look at the Bucks and they have one of the best run defenses in the league. Um, we know they have Tom Brady. Tom Brady's kind of like that X factor that yeah, he's not always forever perfect or anything like that, but in games like this,
He'll find a way to
he'll
win.
find a way to win. Also, the factor is that they throw the ball a lot because the run game hasn't really worked for them well this season. Tom Brady's throwing a lot, and if they could get up early, it's the Browns are one of those teams that they
Where you
don't
have to
have the
lean.
firepower to like come back from like a late 2-3 touchdown lead. It's just kind of not happening. So I could see the Bucks running away early with this game if things go right. But even if it's a close game, I think the Bucks will find a way to win this game and um, you know use their experience and their cohesiveness to get by. But this Cleveland team, who Cleveland, they won some of these past few games against teams that probably should have beat them.
Right.
At some point, I think things kind of self correct a little bit, and somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. I just the feeling around this game is that the Browns are going to end up short.
Right. Then lastly, we have the Giants versus the Cowboys. I mean, we spoke about it in our preview, and the Giants, I mean, they're +9 underdogs. I mean, I would take the points for sure, considering that the Giants could actually win this game, and kind of change the dynamic of their division and kind of fix that head-to-head loss that they had earlier on in the year. So I'm gonna roll with the Giants. I'm gonna take the points with the Giants. I mean, I don't think they'll. I think they'll bounce back, and I think they're gonna have a statement win.
Yeah, I certainly, agree with you in terms of taking the points here. Giants have been a great team this year. They've been winning games. They've been finding ways. It's not always pretty. It's not by a lot of points, but they're always in it. Um, you know, Cowboys, they come off that huge win against the Vikings. They're riding high. This line is probably a reflection of that, as we talked about earlier. And we know, look, these divisional games, we talked about the Chargers getting swept by the Chiefs. The Chiefs are an elite team, but but you have to realize also how hard it is to sweep teams in the NFL. Um, Both the Giants and the Cowboys have been good teams this year. I don't see how the Cowboys come in and okay, could they win this game? Of course. I think it's probably a more. It's actually probably a somewhat evenly matched game. I think if you have the Cowboys at home, this line should probably be like -4.5 or something along those lines.
Right.
Um, but yeah, look, I think even if the Giants do lose this game, it'll be a close game. So 9 points, you give anybody 9 points in this league, good luck, because
Yeah.
a lot of teams aren't covering that spread on a weekly basis. So yeah, I like the points here.
All right, so that wraps it up for our NFL segment. We're gonna get back to you guys next week, and thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and let us know what you think of just this past week of football. Thanks for watching.